Welcome back now. From embracing failure to finding freedom in her 40s, our next guest has turned life's lessons into her greatest strength.
Yes, she is the best-selling author and host of the hit podcast How to Fail. Please welcome Elizabeth Day. Good morning to you, Elizabeth.
Good
Morning. Thank you for having me.
Great to have you with us, and congratulations on another new book as
We'll get
well.
to that.
Busy girl as well.
Yeah.
Listen, I know you've got the unbelievable podcast, best-selling author. I don't know why I'm being stuck with to ask you this question, but I believe in your early days as a journalist,
Yes.
read this right, your first assignment, or one of them, was testing an orgasm machine in your flat.
I'm so happy that is the first question. Yes.
Okay,
That is
yes.
absolutely true. And I think many women will relate to this. Like, I was trying to get ahead at work, and I thought that the best way of doing that was to say yes to everything and to try, and this is all sounding very double entendre, say yes to anything that my editor asked me to do. They're like, listen, we've heard that there's this orgasm machine, would you try it out? And I was desperate to be taken seriously as a feature writer. I was like, of course, let me do an investigative report on this orgasm machine. So I had to strap these electrodes to my ankles and try it out.
To your ankles?
Yes, it was
Did
so
it work?
weird. It sort of took me to the brink, but I would say there are more effective ways. Yeah.
How to fail. There you have it.
Technology has come a long way.
It has. This was in the early 2000s, so...
Yeah, if on Sex Shop are watching, you know, there's a collaboration to be had here. It's amazing.
Yeah.
We've got to find, because you had such a successful, you know, you were a features writer, the incredible stuff that you did, but fast forward to this podcast, How to Fail, which I think is up there in the pantheon of, you know, some of the first podcasts that people know and remember and are like, you know, this was the OG of podcasts. So tell us, because you really did lay bare the failures you felt you had in life, from whether it was having children, whether it was your job, your marriage.
Yes, so it totally came from that experience of feeling like a failure in my 30s. So I had got married to the wrong person, then I'd gone through a divorce, I had tried and failed to have the babies that I thought I wanted. I'd got into a new relationship, that ended just before I turned 39, which is such a potent time for a woman. So I felt that I was staring down the barrel of my 40s with none of the things in place that I really longed for. And at the same time, I was getting frustrated with the kind of print journalism interviews I was doing, which was so often a minimal word count, and they were only ever about the great successes of famous people. And I thought, I wonder if I could flip that on its head and in the process find out how others survive failure. And I realised quite early on, because my listeners told me, that they liked it when I shared because it felt more conversational. And that's the great thing about podcasting, is that you can have an intimate conversation and it feels like quite a safe space. And so I started taking the risk of opening up about some of the stuff that had happened to me. And it was unbelievable, the response that it got. And it's why I'm so passionate about it now, because so often what we think causes us most shame, the fact that I couldn't have children, for instance, and the thing that we think makes us most uniquely flawed actually turns out to have far more universal resonance than you can ever imagine.
We see it now, much more vulnerability and how people are more vulnerable. But when you started to do this, vulnerability wasn't something that was shown. Like, it was all about the picture-perfect online, picture-perfect podcasts. It was a big step, and it was a dangerous move at the time, hence why I suppose it connected with so many people. And you got so many incredible celebrities, people who everybody looks at as the perfect lifestyle, to actually open up about where they've had things gone wrong.
Well, thank you so much for acknowledging that, because you're right. And it is quite hard to think back to 2018, which in some ways is not that long ago, but in other ways is an era ago, because we weren't really having those conversations. And that was the thing that I realised people most connected to, was that they felt like messy, neurotic, flawed individuals, because we all know our insides, but we were comparing our insides with the perfectly curated exteriors of Kim Kardashian and her, like, on Instagram, on holiday in Costa Rica, looking fabulous in a bikini. And of course, the conversation has moved on since then, thank goodness. And I'm proud to have been a small part of that, because actually we were all feeling it. Probably Kim Kardashian was feeling it too.
Of course.
And as the podcast has grown, I feel so grateful that celebrities do trust me and they do come. And I think there's a yearning from them too to have a genuine conversation. Yeah. And I think part of what makes them feel safe is that the structure of the podcast is I ask them for 3 failures in advance of recording, and they know, therefore, the parameters of what we're going to talk about.
Because it is very interesting. I think we live in a time where people are saying so much while saying probably the least they've ever said, because everyone's worried about going viral, saying the wrong thing, people not getting the joke, things being taken out of context. So they have teams of people, and like when you were a journalist, it went in your paper on a Sunday and the people read it and that's where it stayed. Whereas now it can go around the world without context. And people are probably afraid to say certain things or to go certain places.
Yes.
How do you keep that going, that openness that you do have with people where you do get unguarded moments? Because you still do.
Oh, well, thank you. You're so right. And actually, I've been very lucky in the sense that when someone comes on How to Fail, whether it's Kate Winslet or Bernie Sanders or Pamela Anderson, generally speaking, they understand the concept. And so they're kind of willing to go there. But I also think, I say in advance of every recording, the most important thing for me is that you feel safe. And if there's any territory that we veer into that feels like it's not safe, please just tell me and we'll move on, or I'll ask you something different. And actually, having said that, it makes them feel more open, I think. So far, so good. Yeah. And I'm also very aware of the privilege of that, of having the two-way conversation, not only with the guest, but with my audience. Yeah. And so occasionally my audience have rightly called me out because I haven't used my words correctly. And I will always listen to that because I think dialogue is really important.
What a name drop. Pamela Anderson beside Bernie Sanders.
I mean,
come on.
I want to move on to the book for 1 second. You do talk just quickly about failure is data acquisition.
Yes.
Like all these podcasts that you've done, the learnings you must have, but the failure... data acquisition, I think, is a big one for people who are watching this morning.
Yes, that's one of the favourite things that I like to say that I've learned from the podcast, because every single mistake, every single misstep, every single failure we experience, I believe teaches us something meaningful in the fullness of time, if we let it. And so every time we experience a failure, instead of thinking, I am a failure, I'm a terrible person, I would encourage you to think, well, what can I take from this? And what can I do differently next time? And it might be that the only data you require is that you are strong enough to survive it. But that in and of itself should make you feel really empowered.
Absolutely.
We will move on to the book, and your books have gotten bigger and bigger as you've gone, you know, as you had books about, you know, how to fail, a book about that, but then, you know, Magpie and everything that you've had. This is called One of Us. It is a sequel to The Party, but if you haven't read The Party, you can absolutely read this book. Tell us about it.
Oh, well, first of all, thank you for Instagramming and you reading it, because I loved following your journey with it. I loved it. And you're right, it can be read as a total standalone. And ultimately, it's a book about class, belonging, identity, and our need to be loved and accepted and understood. I was very interested in why we keep falling in love with the people who damage us, and why we sometimes elect them too, and why we elect these men, and it is predominantly men, to public office who've never lived an ordinary day in their lives, who've gone to elite private schools, sailed into Oxbridge in the UK, just sailed straight into the Houses of Parliament, and yet they're the ones that we entrust with controlling how we live. And I look at all of that political backdrop through the lens of 5 characters. So it's a multi-voice narrative in the vein of Maeve Binchy, who I think is an amazing author.
Unbelievable. Should have won the Booker Prize numerous times. But there's something very interesting, I think, in this, because you were born in Northern Ireland.
Yes.
Even though you always talk about, look, I don't have the accent, but I was born there, and you felt yourself that you were an outsider looking in to sort of this class system. And there's something very interesting in this. Ben, who, you know, has high ambitions in political office, he just says one day, oh, I'm going to get rid of child benefit.
Yes.
And
I'm so happy you picked this up.
And Martin, one of the characters, goes, oh, yeah, listen, just say it was a mistake. Some under person put that out there. He goes, no, I want to get rid of child benefit. I don't know anyone who uses child benefit. And it kind of just struck me how separated political classes can be from the people that they're governing.
Exactly. And actually, I was very inspired, this is another name drop coming your way, by something Margaret Atwood said to me when she came on How to Fail. And she said when she wrote The Handmaid's Tale, she didn't write anything in that novel that hadn't happened or wasn't already happening in the world around her. That conversation that I put in One of Us, I was in a room where that conversation happened. It wasn't about child benefit. It was about the education maintenance allowance for people from impoverished backgrounds who wanted to go to higher education. And these were people who were politically very well connected, who were making policy. And the direct quote was, well, I don't know anyone who uses it. And I thought, well, no, you wouldn't, because you've had a very privileged life. And I just thought, what? It made me angry. I was like, why do we keep electing these people? And I think part of the reason is because they become familiar to us. So one of the things that I wanted to look at in One of Us was reality TV, which I'm obsessed with. I'll brook no opposition in terms of thinking that Real Housewives is the Dickens of our time. But there's a failed MP in this called Richard Take, and he loses his front bench seat because of an indiscretion. And he rehabilitates himself by going on a reality TV show, and he becomes familiar again.
I wonder what that's pointing at.
Yeah, I wonder.
Listen, congratulations on the book.
It's
Absolutely
fantastic.
Thank you.
It's amazing.
I do have to ask you about one of your previous novels, The Party. They've been adapted for television as well.
Yes, it is. I'm so excited. It's actually happening. I sat in on a read-through with all of the actors and the crew and the director just the other week, and they've started filming. And annoyingly, I can't tell you anything more about it because we haven't sent out the press release yet, other than the fact that I have asked to be an extra.
You're excited.
I am thrilled, yes.
And you're an extra. Brilliant, even better again.
You're going to be one of the guests at the party, obviously, right?
Exactly, yeah.
I love it. The new book is called One of Us. It is absolutely fantastic. If you've never read Elizabeth Day, you'll love this. And if you haven't, read every single one of her books. Elizabeth Day, it's been a pleasure having you here. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
Thanks a million.
Great to see you. Right, coming up, I'm going to be Alan's guinea pig. When he tries
You're just going to be his guinea pig, full stop.
A scary skeleton.
Yeah, we'll be back very shortly on Ireland AM.